Today we're going to be working on Big Brother 16 cast member Brittany, and I will be using a standard rainbow loom set in the offset position. The bands I'm going to be using are brown, skin tone, black, metallic burgundy, 2 silver bands, 2 white bands, and 1 fuchsia band for her mouth. Brittany is sleeveless, so her arms are going to be entirely with skin tone bands, and everything will be double banded. So I'm going to take 2 skin tone bands and put them 5 times down my loom from the 6th peg from the bottom. So I need to put 2 skin tone bands all the way to the last pin on the right. And I'm going to cap this with a single skin tone band wrapped 3 times around the peg. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. 2 skin tone bands going 5 times down the left from the 6th peg from the bottom. At 5. And this we will also cap with a single skin tone band wrapped 3 times around the peg. And we're ready to loop this. And we will grab just the 2 bands and making sure we have a teardrop shape, we're going to loop all the way to the end of the bands. And we'll do the same on the other side, reaching inside the cap band and grabbing just the bottom 2 bands. We're going to loop our little teardrop shapes all the way to the top. Well, at least until we run out of bands. And now I will take the arms and put them on a holding hook and set them aside. And for her legs, we are going to use 2 skin tone bands from the 4th peg to the 3rd peg on the bottom, and we're going to do that 2 times. And then we will put 2 black bands for her shoes, capped with a single black band wrapped 3 times around the peg. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. 2 skin tone bands, followed by 2 more skin tone bands, and 2 black bands for her shoes. And this will be capped with a single black band wrapped 3 times around the peg. And we can loop this. Making sure again that we catch just the bottom 2 bands and that we have a teardrop shape when we loop to the peg above. And this can also go on our holding hook and set aside. So for the nose, we're going to take a single skin tone band and double it and wrap it 3 times around the hook. I'm going to take another skin tone band and double it and slide these bands onto this double loop band. And this will be her nose. which again I will attach later. So I'm just going to slide it up my hook and let it hang out there till I'm done. And our next attachments will be the eyes. And again, I'm going to use E-beads, which I have pre-strung on a piece of Easter basket grass. And for the eyes, I'm going to take a single white band and double it. I'm going to thread the floss through the center of the bands, and then I'm going to slide the E-bead down the floss, making sure to catch the end so that I can slide the bead down onto the band. And then I will place this on my hook, and we will do another one. A single white band, double loop it. We're going to tuck the floss through the band, and we're going to slide the bead down the floss, catching the end so that we can slide the bead onto the white band. And again, you can make the eyes with bands, and you would just take whichever color band you prefer, whether it be blue or green or black or brown, and you would just double loop it and thread it onto a double looped white band. And once you have both done, whether you're using beads or bands, you're going to take a single skin tone band and slide the eyes onto that band. And we can set this aside. And our last attachment is her hair. And we're going to use brown bands. What I'm going to do is take a single brown band and put it from the 9th peg from the bottom to the 8th peg from the bottom. And I'm going to go down 8 times. With a single brown band. And double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we can cap this with a single brown band wrapped only 2 times around the peg. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Put a single brown band going 8 times down the loom. And this we will also cap with a single brown band wrapped only 2 times around the peg. And now we can loop this. And this time we'll only be grabbing 1 band and looping it forward. But we still need to make sure that we have that teardrop or raindrop shape. And we're going to loop all the way up. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, we're only grabbing 1 band and looping it forward. And there we go. And this can go on a holding hook. Pull this off and pull this off. And now these are what I call an 8-link single chain. And what we need to do for the other hair attachments is we need to repeat this process, but we need to make 2 more with 6 links and 2 more with 4 links. So in the end, you're going to want to have these 2 8-link chains, 2 6-link chains, and 2 4-link chains. So you can pause this video and I will meet you back here when you're done. Welcome back. So you should have 2 8-link single chains, 2 6-link single chains, and 2 4-link single chains as your hair attachments. We can set those aside. And now we're ready to band our loom. We're going to start at the top with the hair, which is brown, and this will be double banded throughout. I'm going to take 2 brown bands and place them from the first peg in the center to the second peg in the center. Then I'm going to take 2 brown bands and place them from the first peg on the left to the first peg in the center. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. 2 brown bands from the first peg in the center to the first peg on the right. Next, we're going to go down the left side with 2 brown bands 2 times. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side. 2 brown bands, going down the right side once, and going down the right side twice. We're going to move on to the face. 2 skin tone bands, going down the center 3 times. We will take 2 more skin tone bands and put them on the left side, and 2 skin tone bands going down the right side. I use 3 skin tone bands for the neck, and I'm going to take 2 skin tone bands from the 4th peg on the left to the 5th peg in the center. I will do the same thing on the right. 2 skin tone bands from the 4th peg on the right to the 5th peg in the center. Moving down, I'm going to put 2 skin tone bands going down the center, and moving on to her top, 2 black bands going down the center 2 times. Moving to the shoulders, we are going to place 2 skin tone bands from the 6th peg on the left to the 6th peg in the center, and 2 more skin tone bands from the 6th peg in the center to the 6th peg on the right. We will continue with her top. 2 black bands going down the left side 3 times. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. 2 black bands going down the right side 3 times. We're now going to move to her shorts, and I'm using the metallic burgundy, so I will put 2 burgundy bands going down the center 1 time, 2 burgundy bands down the left side 2 times, and 2 burgundy bands going down the right side 2 times. I'm going to close off her shorts by putting 2 burgundy bands from the 4th peg up from the bottom to the 5th peg up on the left, and 2 more burgundy bands from the 4th peg up from the bottom to the 5th peg up on the right. We are going to cap this with a single burgundy band wrapped 3 times around the 4th peg up from the bottom. Moving on to her legs, we will be using skin tone bands, and I will put 2 skin tone bands going 2 times down the left and 2 skin tone bands going 2 times down the right. There we go. And we're now ready for the holding bands. And I'm going to take a brown band and put it around the first 2 pegs on the left and the right, and the 2nd peg going down the center. I'm going to take a skin tone band and put it around the 2nd peg on the left and the right, and the 3rd peg in the center. Skipping the next 2 on the left and the right, we're going to put a single skin tone band around the 4th pegs on the left and the right, and the 4th peg in the center. Moving down to her main body, we are going to take a skin tone band and put it around the 6th pegs on the left and the right, and the 7th peg in the center. We're going to put a black band around the 7th pegs on the left and the right, and the 8th peg in the center, and a single black band around the 8th peg on the left, the 8th peg in the center, and the 8th peg on the right. And I'm going to cross this over and wrap it up again around the center peg. So this is called a 1.5 loop. I'm going to take my burgundy band and double it and place it around the 9th peg in the center and the 9th peg on the left and the right. Now we're ready for our attachments, and I'm going to attach her eyes to the 3rd peg down on the left and the right. We're going to separate the eyes, and I will grab just one of the bands holding the eyes and wrap it up around the 3rd peg from the top in the center. The next attachments are the arms, and one will go on the 6th peg on the left, and the other is going on the 6th peg on the right. Her legs, one will go on the last peg on the left, and the other one will go on the last peg on the right. And Brittany is also wearing a silver necklace. So I have my silver bands here, and all I'm going to do is place one silver band from the 6th peg on the left to the 7th peg in the center, and the 6th peg on the right to the 7th peg in the center. Next, we'll attach the hair, and your single 4-link chain will go on the 1st peg on the left and the 1st peg on the right, Your 6-link single chain will go on the second peg on the left and the second peg on the right. And that leaves the 8-link chain to go on the third peg on the left and the third peg on the right. And now we're ready to loop. I'm going to start in the center and reach inside the cap band and grabbing the top 2 bands. I'm going to loop them over to the right. The next 2 bands will go over to the left. Now I'm going to loop up the left side, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands. And I will loop forward, making sure I stay inside the holding bands and that I'm grabbing just the bottom 2 bands. And again that I have a teardrop shape each time when I loop the bands over the pegs. I'm going to move to the right and grab just the bottom 2 bands and loop them forward. Again, staying inside the holding bands, and be careful when you get to the double banded one because it can be tight and your bands could break. And again, we want to make sure we have a teardrop shape. And before I loop to the neck, I'm going to go down and loop up the center because I want to catch the silver bands. So when I get to the 7th peg from the top, I want to reach inside the holding band and grab the top silver band, which is going to go over to the right, and the next silver band, which is going to go over to the left. Now I can reach in the left side and grab the bottom 2 shoulder bands, and the same thing on the right, reaching down through all of these bands to grab the bottom 2 and looping them over the center peg. And then I will go down in the center and grab the last 2 bands and loop them forward. When we loop the neck, you want to make sure that you grab all 3 bands of the neck . She says as she grabs only 2. There's the 3rd one. Now I want to reach in here and grab just the top 2 bands, which for me are going to the right, and the next 2 bands are going to the left, and the last 2 bands will loop forward. Now we're going to go to the left side and reach in, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands, and the same thing with this, staying inside the holding bands, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands, making sure not to catch the I band, and we will continue up, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands, making our teardrop shapes all the way to the top peg in the center. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands, being careful not to grab the holding band or the I bands. And we're going to loop to the top peg in the center. And now we will attach our nose. And I'm just going to grab the bands and slide my nose down onto those bands and wrap them around the third peg from the top. And I'm going to reach in and loop these last two sets. There we go. I'm going to double check that I have looped everything. And again, it's sometimes easy to tell if you have missed any by looking down through the side. And we're ready to attach our slip knot band. And I will put my hook straight down through the top peg on the center and grab a hold of that band. Pull it through and make a slip knot. And now we're ready to take this off the loom. And I'm going to be careful where I have the double looped band for the holding band. And then we will continue removing the bands as we go up. And there we go. I'm going to poke her eyes to the front. And stretch her out a little bit. Fix her legs. Goodness, we broke her leg taking her off the loom. Legs aren't supposed to bend that way. And I know she looks like Medusa right now, but bear with me. We're going to tweak her hair as well. First we're going to attach her mouth, and I'm using a fuchsia band. And I'm going to put my hook in from the back to the front in the general mouth area and pull these bands through to the back. I'm going to push my hook through to the front again. Grab a hold of the other end of the band and pull it to the back, and then I can secure these ends with a C-clip. Go. And then I can tweak the mouth just by giving the bands a little tug. There we go. Okay, and what I'm going to do with her hair, I'm going to put my hook through the top two bands on the middle hair extension and catch a hold of the cap band on the top extension, and I'm going to pull that through and tug it all the way through. And then I'm going to put my hook through the top two bands on the bottom extension, grab a hold of the cap band of the middle extension, and I'm going to pull it through the bottom extension all the way through. And this will need some more tweaking, but I'm going to move over to the other side and do the same thing. I'm going to put my hook through the top two bands of the middle extension, grab a hold of the cap band of the top extension and pull it all the way through. And then I am going to put my hook through the top two bands of the bottom extension, grab a hold of the cap band of the middle extension, and pull this one all the way through. Okay, and now we can secure the slip knot in the back, and I'm just going to weave it through in a couple of places to secure it out of sight. Here we go. And now for her hair. I'm just going to straighten it out a little bit, straighten the bands as best I can. And there will be places where you may want to tuck the cap band through again, either onto itself or onto one of the other extensions. I'm going to take this top extension and thread it through again in a different spot. And I'll fix the cap band. And I'm just going to continue tweaking it like that and tucking it here and weaving it there until I get the look that I want for her hair. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to tuck this extension back through again in a different spot. And I'm going to grab the top extension again. And I'm going to weave it down through in another section again and pull it all the way through. And again, you can play with the hair and tweak it, and like I said, tuck it here, weave it there until you get the hair to lay the way that you want it to. And just straighten her nose. And fix her eyes. I'm just going to stretch her hair out here to loosen it up a little bit. And there we go. I want to fix her shoes. And I'm going to straighten the cap band. I'm going to put my hook down through the teardrop shape and give it a little tug. Just to define her foot. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to stretch the teardrop to the side to define her foot. I'm going to squeeze her hips in a little bit. Her waist is already tucked in because of the double banding we did for the holding band. And I'm going to reach in here for the silver band and just pull it forward a bit so you can see it better. It's supposed to represent her necklace. There we go. And I'm going to tuck her arms down to the sides. And I wanted to say, if you find that you're fighting with the hair too much, you can just pull it to the back and make a ponytail. Or you could even pile it up on top. Like this, and just take a brown band and wrap it around, and you could form a high ponytail and just secure it that way at the top of her head or in the back of her head. So whichever you prefer. I'm going to leave her hair down like it is in the photo. Once I get it positioned the way I like. Okay, and oops, her nose looks crooked. I don't think she ever broke her nose, but we certainly don't want her to have a broken nose now. And I'm going to fix her mouth. And there you have it. This is Brittany from Big Brother 16. Thank you so much for watching. I would really appreciate your comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.